You can say hi, but then you gotta leave. Say hi. Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Today I have something different, something that I've been wanting to do for a little while, which is a little discussion regarding what I at least think to be the One Piece problem. This is something that I think got mentioned in one a recent video that at least to me it was significant enough and it received a lot of traction from some of the content creators because they themselves wanted to be like the missing piece that this video was referencing to. I can't really recall the channel name yet. It was talking about how the One Piece problem, the One Piece card game cannot grow. And then he listed off a couple very valid points, such as paywalls, low effort content, and so on. Now, yeah, you cannot grow too. I don't think the One Piece TCG has a growth problem. On the contrary, I actually think growth is there. We see it in numbers, we see it in sales. Yet I think more so it has a fatigue problem. Now, what do I mean by fatigue? Fatigue. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a definition from from the internet, so that way I don't have to butcher whatever it is. So, fatigue. This is what AI says. So don't trust everything you read. It's a feeling of persistent tiredness and exhaustion that can interfere with daily activities. Now itself, daily activities playing the One Piece card game, I don't necessarily would correlate to that, but more so, I do think that the card game should be a hobby first and foremost. And when your hobbies start becoming like a chore, then there's where the fatigue comes into place. Um, Especially because it's something that we fully enjoy. Now, I do think it's important for us, Lena, you can leave. I do think it's important for us to have the discussion about why is the card game, the One Piece card game, as unique compared to any other card game as well. And this, we kind of have to go all the way back to the beginning of the card game since its conception. So, this is 3 years ago in Japan and Asia regions, and then about like I want to say like 2 years and a half for the rest of the world, which is well, I'm in America, or United States, so I do think that it has something to do, which I'm gonna get a little bit more into it. Yet obviously, being One Piece, the card game that got released, just the IP itself, like it just completely immersed myself. And my interest was there. It's like, wow, this is so cool. I remember having a conversation with a good friend of mine where we used to play Dragon Ball. It's like the moment that a One Piece card game gets announced, I'm all for it. Now, I'm not too sure if there's any other iterations of One Piece, like the card game itself. I know there's like collectibles, but never an actual card game. So, yet from there, I do have to say this: a couple alarming issues when it got to announce, because not everything is just excitement. It's probably excitement at first, but then you kind of have to look at the background of what's going on. And one of the things that I immediately thought about is like all those other failed iterations that just because it's One Piece, it did pique my first interest, my initial interest, and then nothing ever happened from there. And this is true, particularly in video games. And over here we have something like Bounty Rush. We have all those games for the console, such as World Seeker. Um, I think there was one called Red, Odyssey. So all of these different games that we all heard of about, but none of them were actually good. Pirate Warriors. I'm immediately thinking of Pirate Warriors because I really try to make that happen in me. Like meaning, I watched it, I played it, and it's like I just can't get into this. So I don't think One Piece itself is powerful enough to push me like in a mediocre product. Now, the question becomes, is the One Piece card game a mediocre product? And I would have to say it is not. It is crafted to it is crafted in a way that takes a lot from other card games that are around, and it gives us a uniqueness to it. So I do think it's it's a very solid product. And being Bandai the publisher, that similarly they have the IP for the rest of the games, and we have all those games given to us that were horrible. Yet the card game itself was actually a pretty decent product. Now, I don't want to get too much into my background of card games and my experience with card games yet. I do have to say there's something here that once release happened that remind me a lot of something else, which is the Yu-Gi-Oh problem. Now, the Yu-Gi-Oh problem is simple. Well, it has a lot of problems, but to me, one of the main problems is that there was never a simultaneous release. So, uh, other regions in Asia experience a different, if you will, a different card game that we've experienced. Similarities shared, yes, of course, but there was some differences, like within card releases and within regulations, meaning banned and restricted list. Yet that itself didn't really carry over to the One Piece card game because there's a couple key cards in that region in Yu-Gi-Oh that made it that it's two different complete formats that we would call it. Yet in One Piece, it was word to word. A ban would typically be effective across the board, aside from one very unique, very unique situation that it's almost forgettable because it was a small ban that happened for a couple. I want to say a month, 2 months. I don't quite remember, which was around set four. Topic for a different video. Yet here is where we start noticing something. What's the fun part about a card game? Well, a lot of people, a lot of people's definition of fun is different. Some people are competitive, some people are casuals, some people just want to have a good time. Um, Yet nonetheless, there's something for everyone. It should appeal for everyone because you should have your casual consumers as well as your hyper competitive consumers. And I'm here to say that is okay. Okay, that is okay. Like honestly, I don't see a problem with there being on that matter. Like I'm kind of just gonna straight up like I kind of jump over to some other topic. I don't see a problem with a well-defined meta. Yet here's kind of where the problem for me started. Like this fatigue part started. Every time we get a new set, two things happen. One, we already know what the most relevant decks or cards are going to be. And two, contrary to that, it's almost like the other side of the coin. We already know what is not going to be good. So that makes a question of, well, we get so many cards in a set. I think 140 something. Don't quote me on that. And we already know what to look for and what not to look for, as opposed to us just going in quote unquote blind or just going off the reviews that we receive and then exploring, which that to me, that is a key part of this. Is like that exploration part of trying to find out and trying to quote unquote grind and figure out that this is good, this is not good. All of that matters. And here we get to talk about like the organization, the what we would call the organized play is like, I can go to my local store, try out this deck, it didn't work out, try out different variations and so on. Yet if we already know what's good, that kind of takes a little bit of the fun. Um, Now, really, in the script that I had, I did want to talk a little bit more about meta decks, but I gotta admit, this past weekend I played UP Luffy and I thought it was actually really fun. Um, but it doesn't go well. Having said that, I do think here lies the other problem because I initially said that that's one problem, right? That we already know we just follow along what the other regions have done because they are experienced that. So it's hard for me to get excited about. I'm gonna use what's happening next week. It's hard for me to get excited about set 12 when we already know the reveals of set 13 and PBR 02 is already out. So, they're playing a completely different card game already. And for me, it's like, oh, well, I guess I kind of have to step onto that before I get to the whatever's coming up. One second. I think Lena wants to talk a little bit. A little bit. Hi, Lena. Okay, so what to do? I do think the simultaneous release is going to be a better approach to the card game. Why? Because there's going to be not this much fatigue. Again, fatigue, something that would reduce this particular dreadfulness that has happened that I've experienced, and I know a lot of other people, even top players, have experienced regarding. I'm going to go to an event. I have a love-hate relationship with the game. I'm playing something that, yeah, it is challenging, on the top levels it is challenging because you kind of have to outplay, but everything else it does feel like, I'm playing something that is not that good and I'm quite aware of it because I already know what's good. Yet I want to make an effort to try something new. I do think this is one of the main reasons why the one shift that I saw is the popularity on other quote unquote off meta decks, kind of like I don't consider Bell and Betty necessarily a meta deck, but I also don't consider it an off meta deck, yet a counter to what's already known. That itself has been one of the major shifts that I've seen, and I think that is product of what's currently going on. And this fatigue problem is something that I do think Bandai has to be held responsible on solving. This could be done by multiple ways. I do think the most important one is to answer a little bit quicker what the alarming problem is, just because it's going to make that much more sense to have new product that is easily, it's something that I can look forward, as opposed to just another, stepping stone before we get into something else that to us is already like that set 13. So I'm already skipping in my head, and I think this is a everyone problem in my head. I'm already skipping set 12. I'm already skipping PBR. And some people are not even as excited for set 13. They're jumping ship to other card games, or just like a little break, which is very common to happen. Like every time a new card game rolls around, people kind of tend to look the other eye. And just because the fatigue in One Piece is real, and we wanted to make it enjoyable, we want to make sure that we keep a solid player base in our local level, because after all, that's going to correlate into a into growth. Again, tying it back to the original inspiration for this one. Now, again, I do think simultaneous release is going to help out a lot. I exactly don't know where this is coming from or when this is going to happen. Yet I think it's going to be, until now, I do think taking breaks is important as anything else. Um, the fear of missing out is very, very real in this card game. We have regional sign up, everybody signs up. Treasure cups, everybody hates on treasure cups, but everybody plays treasure cups. So see, there's this duality that I keep on seeing in this card game that I wish it didn't exist, and the only way that we can happen is that it can happen is, number one, simultaneous release. Number two, being a little bit quicker when it comes to just addressing problems. We don't want to have another set 2 to 4 where Whitebeard just completely dominated, and then set 5. I think set 5 was very interesting because it kind of showed how behind us in the West were when it was time to see something like Sakazuki, because it was already deck figured out that I don't think the deck itself was a problem. I do think it led into too much creativity that ultimately ended up in just one very restricted way of playing the deck. Slight variations, but I don't consider, for example, we have our national champ Clyde, that he plays like 5 1-ups. Honestly, as cool as it is, I don't think that's still considered like creative enough if the rest of like the bulk of your deck is going to be the same. Um, Aside from that, the community is very important. In my community, I try to run a lot of off meta events just to keep things interesting. And I love seeing how people just sit down and think about their decks, think about what they want to play, think about what 50 cards they're going to be playing, think about what the outlook of everything else is going to be. And that itself, to me, is very important to just push for a community that will do that. I think this itself could be something that could be work on a local level. That could be something that you can talk to your tournament organizers. I'm sure they would agree. Anything to just keep people coming in, people being excited about a particular set, a particular well, the game itself, right? Which I think we all do it, but it's hard for us to get excited for it, if that makes sense. Anyway, I would love to have this keep on going this conversation. Again, I wanted to talk a little bit about the burnout and fatigue about this game, which is a problem. It's a problem for me. It's a problem for Alyssa as well. Um, and yeah, so if anyone has any thoughts about it, or anything to add, please go ahead and do so in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for your time. And Lena's still here. She was licking my feet. Say hi and say bye. And Lola, you too. This is Lola, by the way. I don't know if people have met Lola just yet. We're technically fostering. Whoa, we're technically fostering her, but we might keep her. Not gonna lie. All right, this has been Lex, and cheers, and until the next one.